Okay, folks, ready to dive in. I feel like we're always just surrounded by data these days. Charts, graphs, reports,
It's true.
everywhere you look. But how do we really know if we can trust those insights?
Yeah, that's a big question.
So that's exactly what we're going to tackle in this deep dive
Absolutely.
into business intelligence testing, or as the cool kids call it, BI testing.
EI testing.
Now, I know testing might not sound like the most thrilling topic, but trust me, when it comes to data,
Oh, this is a good one.
this stuff is seriously
You
important.
can make or break a company.
Exactly. And we've got some really interesting sources that lay out just how high the stakes can be.
Right, because one tiny data error can spiral out of control and lead to some pretty bad decisions.
Oh, yeah, like dominoes falling.
Yeah, but instead of blocks, you're talking about profits or even worse, entire businesses.
Okay, that's a little terrifying. So how do we avoid these data disasters?
Well, that's where BI testing comes in.
All right, so let's break that down. What exactly are we talking about when we say BI testing?
So BI testing is all about making sure your entire data pipeline is flowing smoothly from the second that raw data is collected to the final reports that land on someone's desk. Think of it as quality control for information.
Okay, so it's more than just like catching typos in a spreadsheet, right?
Oh, way more.
This is a whole system we're talking about.
Yeah, imagine a factory production line. You wouldn't just check the final product for defects, right?
Right. You check each stage of the process.
Exactly, to make sure everything is running smoothly.
Okay, got it. So what are the key stages in this data production line then?
One of the most important is the ETL process. You familiar with that?
ETL, I've heard of it, but give me a refresher.
Sure. So ETL stands for extract, transform, load. And it's basically how we take data from all these different sources, sales figures, customer info, website traffic. It's all jumbled up in different formats and structures.
Yeah, a total mess.
Exactly. And ETL is like a chef. It takes those raw ingredients and whips them into a usable format.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing there can be some kitchen nightmares along the way.
Oh, absolutely. One common mistake is mismatched data formats. Like, let's say your sales data uses month, day, year, but your customer data uses day, month, year.
Oh, that's going to cause problems.
Oh, huge problems. I've seen companies misinterpret sales trends and lose thousands of dollars just because of a simple date format error.
Wow. Okay, so making sure your ETL is accurate is critical.
It's essential.
So our sources also mention something called staging data. What is that all about?
Oh, yeah. Staging data is like prepping your ingredients before you start cooking. You wouldn't just throw everything in a pot without measuring or chopping, right?
I'm getting hungry just thinking about it.
So the staging area is where that transformed data gets cleaned, validated, and prepped before it goes into the final BI system.
Okay, so it's all about data quality and consistency.
Precisely.
All right, and then comes the actual data load, getting all that prep data into the BI system. Is this where performance becomes really important?
You bet nobody wants to wait forever for a report to run.
That's the worst.
So testers have to make sure the loading process is smooth, error-free, and that the data integrates properly.
Like making sure all the ingredients blend seamlessly.
Exactly.
Okay, so finally we get to those beautiful BI reports that everyone relies on for making decisions. But our sources mentioned that testing these reports can get surprisingly granular.
Oh, yeah. It gets down to the nitty-gritty.
Like what kind of stuff are we talking about?
Everything from date and time formats to decimal precision to how blank values are displayed, even the alignment of charts and the number of rows and columns.
Wow, that sounds intense.
Well, it's important because even seemingly minor discrepancies can lead to some major misinterpretations.
So like a chart with misaligned axes could completely distort the trends.
Exactly, and that could lead to bad decisions.
Okay, so for those of us who aren't data scientists, why should we care about all this BI testing?
It's about trust.
Trust.
Yeah, next time you see a chart or a graph, especially one that's being used to make important decisions, remember all the work that went into making sure that data is accurate.
It's like an invisible safety net.
Exactly.
But couldn't companies just trust their data sources in the first place? I mean, isn't all this testing a bit overkill?
That's a good question. And while data sources are generally pretty reliable, errors can still happen during data entry system integration. Even software glitches can cause problems. BI testing is there to catch those errors before they turn into major issues.
Right, so it's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
But wouldn't all this testing slow things down? I mean, some people might argue that it creates bottlenecks.
Sure, but think about it. Insufficient testing could lead to even bigger delays and more costly mistakes down the line.
True, so it's about finding that balance.
Exactly. Prioritize the tests that target the biggest risks.
Wow, I'm starting to see how complex this all really is.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just finding bugs.
Yeah, it's about ensuring the integrity of the data that we use to make sense of the world.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important takeaway for our listeners.
Absolutely.
Just because data is presented in a fancy chart or graph doesn't automatically make it true. We need to be critical thinkers and always question the source of the information.
Absolutely. Think about the journey that data took from its raw form to that final presentation, and ask yourself what could have gone wrong along the way.
That's a great point. It's like being a data detective.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new perspective on data and how much work goes into making it trustworthy.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners out there, keep those data detective hats on. And remember, don't always believe everything you see.
Question everything.
Until next time, folks, happy data diving.
Bye, everyone.